Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us for Live at 5, and we appreciate you being here. My general good mood is only tempered by some of the news in Colorado. It's a very sad day, for us here in Colorado and Boulder particularly. And although, thank God, I think those who are in our immediate community have not been the victims of this terrible shooting, but we all feel to be like we're attacked. I just got out of King Supers a few minutes ago, and one King Supers and another King Supers. When I went on the King Supers website for something else, it said, the store in Boulder there is closed until further notice as a result of the terrible shooting. Yeah, it's pretty ugly and awful. Um, and I'm not uh, I don't want to make any kinds of political statements about it. I will say how sad and how tragic it is, and we still have the world is still not a finished product. That's kind of the way that we look at the way that we look at things as Jews. We look at there's still work to do. There's a lot of difficulty, a lot of ugliness, a lot of things that still need to be fixed, and so we renew our efforts. Particularly, I was thinking at the time at Passover time, to some degree, here we are a few days before the celebration of a great high moment in the Jewish calendar, and it celebrates, a transition from the worst to the greatest. It's a very vivid transition, a very stark transition between the way that things shouldn't be and the way that things could be. It's a little bit of we're in the before, and then there's the after. Sometimes before just means the drudgery of cleaning up the chametz for the holiday, which feels a little bit like slavery sometimes. Of course, it doesn't. I say that really only in jest. It doesn't compare by any means, but we are working, and sometimes it's work that we're not always accustomed to doing. So therefore, it feels out of the ordinary. But we're at least, part of the holiday is trying to recall that. In fact, the Talmud actually says that the general formula for Passover, for Seder night, is maskil b'genusim esayim b'shvach, which means start with the low and end with the high. Start with the disgrace of the Jewish people that we were in such a low place, and then we'll talk about afterwards at that same Seder. We need to finally talk about the greatness that we were given. And really, it was a gift. It was thrust upon us. Passover is not the story of great accomplishments. It's a story of great gifts, things that we received, not things that we achieved. That's the thought on the holiday. For the holiday is to recognize how thankful we are for the gifts we've been given. That's really what it's about. It's not remembering, recalling. It's not commemorating any kind of a high point in terms of what we'd accomplished. It's where we've been, but at least where we're able to be brought, to be led, to be taken. So we'll finish off with a little bit of that mention of the low points. I think it's appropriate just to conclude in any public forum at this such a time that we wish we send our hopes and prayers for a speedy recovery if those are injured, to calm, consolation, compassion to those who are family members of the deceased. We appreciate our men, our police force. I'm happy to see lots and lots of donations being made and lots of regard and sympathy being extended to the families of the officer who was killed in the pursuit of duty, and everybody else who apparently they were lined up waiting for vaccines. So actually, on that note, I had some good fortune today. I had some blessing from Shemaim. I got my first vaccine this afternoon, about an hour ago, and which is very nice. And I who knows? You contrast yourself. Yesterday, if I'd have been in a King Supers getting a vaccine and been in that line, that could have been me. Today, I was in a King Supers and I got my vaccine. I didn't get it at King Supers, but I did both of those two things, and I'm alive and well. And every day, I think we have to find ways to get in touch with that feeling of of real, genuine gratitude for all of the blessings. Really happy to be alive, and perhaps nothing brings it home for me as that contrast. That could have been me. I could have been one of those 10. I live right here in Colorado. I shop in King Soopers. I got my vaccine, so it could have been me, and instead I'm alive. So it's like a gift. And even if I didn't think of it in that kind of a contrast, every morning is a gift. Every day to wake up and appreciate the gifts. That's part of Passover, is appreciating the gifts. So that's one part. That's certainly one part of it. I'll tell you the story of my getting the vaccine, which was kind of fun. A friend of mine in shul told me, he said, look, there's a little clinic. It's in the back of the building where the Mexican embassy is on Leetsdale. It's just by the deli, like Leetsdale and Holly. There's a little clinic there right by the deli. And he said, go in there. I tried calling, but I couldn't get through, but I popped in and I got on a waiting list and they called me back. So I said, okay, fine, I'll try it. So yesterday in the afternoon, I stopped off there and went in. I said, you have any vaccines? So that sounds like my wife's grandmother's favorite joke. She would go into the bank and she would say, do you have any free samples? So I went into the clinic and I said, hi, any vaccines today? And they said, nope, sorry, but we'll put your name on the waiting list. And I said, great. And they said, listen, if we call you, you could come. I said, I work 2 minutes from here. They said, okay. I said, what number would it be? Because, when you get a foreign number on your phone these days, who answers that, right? I never answer those calls. They're almost always junk. So I said, what phone number is it coming from? So she said, this is our work number right here. So I said, fine, thank you. She said, if we have something open, we'll call you. So that was yesterday. Today, I'm in the office and it's about 3:30 and I was getting done with a meeting. And I don't know how I even missed a phone call because I had my phone in my hand. It was on vibrate, I guess, not on loud. And suddenly I saw that number came on the call list as if they had just called me. So I dialed back and I couldn't get through. And I said, I'm going in. So I just jumped in the car, ran over, walked into the clinic. And sure enough, I walked in the door and they said, Rabbi Leban. And I said, yes, that's me. And they said, sit right over here. And they gave me the vaccine. It was really, so I feel very blessed. And I have a Moderna vaccine number 1, and I'll get another one in a couple of weeks. They gave me a schedule. So if anyone's looking and you're in the neighborhood and you want to know that clinic, they couldn't be sweeter. And I would send you down there. Just put your name, just walk in there, put your name on the waiting list, say, I live nearby, and they'll call you. I put another name there for one of my other family members. So highly recommended. Very nice people. And I think that I don't think it's just them. I tend to think that this is a worthwhile strategy for any of the places near you that are giving vaccines. If you haven't gotten one and you want one, that's the strategy. Walk in there, smile sweetly, and ask if you can put your name on the waiting list. Tell them if they have an extra opening that somebody cancels or they have an extra vaccine, you'll run in 2 minutes. And I have a feeling that this is not uncommon. That's a nice way to get a vaccine. And if you go in person, you say, I'm right near here. I think you'd be surprised if they won't give you a call. So anyway, that's just my suggestion. And that was my vaccine story for the day. So I wanted to mention, by the way, just lastly on the topic of the, I saw that the Jewish community of Boulder, which is organized largely by the JCC, is having a kind of a virtual community gathering, maybe a vigil of sorts tonight. And that is at 7 p.m. I believe if you're interested in that, you could go to the JCC, the Boulder JCC Facebook page. Boulder JCC Facebook page, you could find that. Otherwise, you could probably go to the Boulder JCC website and get some information also. And that's tonight at 7. If anyone's interested in participating in that, they should know about it. I don't think it's, I think you have to sort of sign up to get the Zoom link or whatever kind of link it'll be, but that's where you could find out more. So today, then, furthermore, rest of stuff I wanted to do a little bit more, talking about Passover and the Seder. Just a reminder, if you are going to get rid of your chametz, here are your options. Number 1, eat it all. Number 2, burn it up on Friday morning. Or number 3, pack it away and talk about getting it sold so you don't have to worry about it. And then even if you don't manage to completely consume it or burn it in the fire, then you are then you can at least have it out of your possession. That way, a form to take care of the sale is available. in Jewish Experience emails on our website. If you'd like to get it, just let me know if you haven't, but I need to get it by tomorrow because this needs to get in process. I'm not the one processing it. It's an actually interesting concept that, that this is something. There are very few things that are treated by the Torah with this degree of stringency. So there's lots of things in the Torah you can't eat. You can't eat pork. You can't eat shrimp. You can't eat milk and meat cooked together. There's lots of things like that we don't eat. But there's very few things that you're not allowed to own. Like you can't own it at all. Very few things like that. And for the duration of Passover, you know, which is leavened groats, elt, and I. Those are things that we, when mixed with liquids, particularly water, and left to rise, then you have a problem. I hope everybody can hear me. Looks like my internet is a little unstable. So those are things we get rid of, and we've talked about a little bit. I was doing a little Pesach cleaning last night with one of my kids, and at a certain point, as you find yourself, like we empty out the kitchen and those cupboards. Then we hire a professional cleaning staff that comes in, several of them, and they clean. And then we begin the Passover cleaning. So, we were talking about clean. We clean for hours after a whole professional cleaning team has already been asked to clean it to the best of their abilities. And they come and go, and then we start, So this is clean. The only reason I think that our 20-year-old fridge has lasted as long as it has is because every year we make it better than new. I think we clean it so clean. There's there's not a speck of anything. We take it apart again and scrub it down. And there's we use little wooden skewers to poke away at little bits of chametz. We're very, very, very adamant to get rid of all this stuff because the Torah has this great stringency on chametz. The great stringency is is a zero tolerance policy, if you will. And even if there's if you have little crumbs of chametz in the food that you're going to eat on Passover, it's a problem. And normally little crumbs in there, of problematic, mixed into a food and lost in there are not problematic because we say that, it's such a small percentage. It's null and void, inside the whole bunch of food, the rest of which is kosher. Here, we don't say that. Here we say any little bit that gets in, there's a problem. So obviously that's a tremendous stringency. And therefore we have to, to kind of clean. I think in the good old days where people's lives were simpler and they didn't, have probably as much long-term chametz, and they didn't have as big kitchens and have as much dishes and everything, the cleaning was a lot less. In fact, in the code of Jewish law, it actually says a good idea before you do that nighttime search for the chametz on Thursday night this year, you should sweep. That's like the description of Passover cleaning. Make sure and sweep before you do that, because then you'll be clean and be much sweeping. That's all they just had to sweep the floor, and everything else, they didn't have a lot of chametz laying around like we do. But we have fridges and cupboards and pantries and freezers and on and on and on. We got chametz everywhere. So those are your ways of getting rid of it. Clean. And the first one, of course, is the cleaning and stuff. So anyway, last night I was cleaning, and I've only got a few open sores and wounds, with cleaning chemicals poured all in it. That's just the way the hands get. And I said to my son, I said, look, let me tell you about Pesach cleaning. There's going to be that point when you're going to say to me that, do we really have to clean this much? Like, isn't this crazy? How far do we have to go already? It's Meshugana. That's Yiddish for nuts, and we're nuts over here. We don't have to clean that much. And I said to him, you're going to say that, you're going to feel it. And that's the point you're waiting for, because our sages equate chametz with the pitfall, the frailty, the character drawback of ego, of being an egotistical person, of letting our ego get in the way. And the reason that we have one sort of symbolic reason we have a zero tolerance policy for chametz on Passover is because this is the holiday where you have to just put your ego aside totally. Why? Why this more than other holidays? I'll tell you. in this holiday, which is the first of the Jewish holidays. It's the bedrock of the Jewish people. This is our history. This is it. We're excited to start another year of our national connection to God. The Talmud says that the ego is the absolute antithesis of what we're trying to achieve on Passover. You can't have an egotistical Passover. It just doesn't work. Passover and ego, they're like opposites. Here it is, Passover, we're trying to say, look, we didn't achieve freedom on Passover. We were given it as a present. And who was it that gave it to us? It's God Almighty. Hashem, God, the good Lord from above, reached down into this ugly Egyptian slavery and pulled us out of there. And he did it for us. And so that relationship, that regarding, that's where that's how we start. That's how the relationship with God starts. Gratitude, appreciation, recognition, and all of those things are impeded by ego. Our own ego blocks all of that. In the Talmud, it says, it's as if God says, an egotistical person, you and me, we can't share the same space. There's not enough room here for the two of us. Me and your ego, God says, we don't fit together. There's not enough room for me and you. So one of us has to step aside. And I'll tell you who it is. It's us. We have to be able to control our own sense of the world works the way I say it works. What happens to me is what I deserve and what I feel like I deserve and what I decide, and nothing else should happen. And that's not the way it works. That's the ego talking. The correct perspective is I'm a recipient of tremendous blessings. Everything that I've got going right, God's given me, and even my challenges, he's given me those too for my benefit. And we are recipients, and we have to start with that. And so we have to put the ego aside. And since the chametz is the symbol of ego, because it inflates the bread and it puffs up the bread and makes the bread feel all full of itself. So we have a zero tolerance policy. And when we're cleaning, and there's that moment when we say, I can't believe I have to do this. This is crazy. I don't have to do this. I'm not doing this. That's when it's our ego rubbing up against someone else telling us what to do. And the best thing we can have in life is someone else above us telling us what to do. That's what the yarmulke reminds us of. The yarmulke is the reminder on the head to say, you know what? There's someone over top of you that's telling you what to do, that's in charge. It's not you. You're not the boss. Don't even think about it. And so when the Torah says, clean, nobody cleans like this, except I'm telling you, yes, you're going to clean like this. And you do it and you put your ego aside. That is the quintessential preparation for Passover. Now, then we're gonna back that up with we're gonna eat matzah, and matzah is really reinforces that, because matzah is the low, humble bread. I guess in the South they used to call it humble pie. We call it humble bread, and it's matzah, and that's the stuff that we eat that reminds us of being sort of flattening our ego and our image. We flatten that. The other symbol that we have for all of this is the tablets, the 2 tablets of the 10 Commandments when Moshe came down from Mount Sinai with them. And it says that the 10 Commandments were carved on the tablets. So the Hebrew word for carved is charus. Carved. The words of the 10 Commandments were carved into these 2 tablets. But our sages say the same word charus can also be read cherus. And it means they say don't read it charus, which means carved, but pronounce it cherus, which means free. Because freedom is when you're clutching the tablets. That's freedom. Now, freedom, the 10 Commandments means freedom. Someone might well argue quite the opposite. The last thing I would think of as freedom is commandments telling me what to do. The answer is no. The freedom that we're looking forward to is freedom from Pharaoh. But it's not freedom from being told what to do, just being told what to do by God and not by anybody else. We don't want anybody else telling us what to do and getting in the way of God telling us what to do. But we want God telling us what to do, and that's real freedom. It's contrary to perhaps to what common logic might say, that a whole bunch of rules and regulations is freedom. That's right. That's what we look at, as long as they're coming from God. But if they're coming from other places, then they're just getting in the way. And that was Egypt, their rule over the Jewish people, their unwillingness to let us pursue our religious past and our future. That was the constriction that we mentioned yesterday. And so when we get out of that, we celebrate Passover. And that's the freedom that we're really looking forward to. And we have in a sense two types of constraints that we have to be free of. Okay, it's important to understand this, I think, a little bit. If you'll bear with me and you'll give me another minute, it's important to understand that a little bit about when we feel ourselves today constrained and we're still struggling and we're still looking for that freedom, that ability to shake free and break free. The two things that constrain us, one is external and one is internal. The external is the pressure that we feel to conform to the attitudes and perspectives that are outside us from the outside world. The outside world, they want to tell us what's good and what's moral and what's right. And they want us to step in line, and they want us to follow their philosophies and value systems and principles. And for us, that's a pressure that pulls us away from our true selves, from the national mission of the Jewish people. It's pulling us away. It's an external pressure. The pressure of being in the diaspora, the pressure of someone else telling us what to do. And whether that's a vicious Pharaoh telling us what to do, whether it's, we've been at plenty at the hands and throughout the many, many centuries and millennia of our exile, we've been through plenty of other foreign tyrannical governments that tell us what to do. Or it's even found in the form of tremendous social pressure that we feel, like we're embarrassed or unable to really express ourselves. We have to sort of hide what we believe and what we do and who we are and what we wear, etc. Those kinds of discomforts that we feel. That's that external pressure. That's problem number one. It constrains us from being the holy nation, the holy individuals that we strive to be. And then there's an internal constraint. And the internal constraint is that inner voice that we think of it as the Yetzer Hara. A lot of times it's the voice of ego or the voice of laziness or the voice of jealousy. It's many inner voices, and they hold us back. They hold us back from believing in ourselves. They hold us back from allowing us to strive to be something great that we think, that's not me, or that's not, it's not really going to be so much fun, or, it's not really possible for me in my circumstances. Whatever we think, we don't think we can achieve greatness. We think we're hindered and handicapped from it, and we've had things happen to us that hold us back, or we have our situation holds us back, and that inner voice holding us back is the other constraint. So we have external constraints and internal constraints, and these are the two challenges that we have to be aware of and recognize. And we have to know that Passover is the energy and the time of freedom. It's a time of freedom, meaning to say that we're like infused with extra juice to break free. There's a helicopter flying over our heads with a ladder, and it could take us up and take us out of here, and we can overcome. But first we have to be aware of what the challenges are, and we have to steer ourselves in the right direction and to take advantage. Now, I just noticed, by the way, I was plunking away on my calendar this week, and I did a little bit of math, and I have to share this with you. So especially I know we have some of our Live at 5 regulars that enjoy numbers. So I got numbers for you. If you take the Hebrew calendar date of 5781 this year, and you subtract backwards to the year 2448 that the Exodus happened on a Jewish calendar, you will recognize that is exactly 3,333 years this year from the Exodus. How about that? It is the 3,333rd anniversary of the Exodus of the Jewish people from Egypt. Pretty cool. 3333. And that is, it's a long time, 3 millennia, 3 centuries, 3 decades, and 3 years since the Jewish people left Egypt. So we have to perhaps add to that 3, we got a lot of great numbers. And the number, we talked about numbers at the Seder, number 15, number 4. And maybe we should just think about 3s. Anything in 3s in the Jewish people, by and large, ties back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We have 3 forefathers. Yesterday, we talked about the 4 foremothers. Today, we'll talk about the 3 forefathers. Because when you have a triad like that, for us, what that means is, if you would sort of think about one and then the other and then the synthesis. So it's thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. That means you've got sort of one concept pulling you this way and the opposite concept pulling you that way. And the third is the resolution of the two, which we talk about all the time. Just for example, Abraham was our forefather that taught us all about chesed, about giving, about the loving kindness, the focus on the other. Isaac, on the other hand, taught us about the greatness of gevura, of strength, which is a discipline, which is our ability to remain in self-control and intact, and it's perhaps a self-focus, if you will. And then the resolution of both of those is Yaakov's great lesson, and he teaches us the synthesis of his grandfather and his father's traits into what we call truth. Truth is the resolution of both of those two ideas into the perfect admixture, and it's Torah and it's truth. So that is a little bit of those. By the way, there's always a great way to remember this. So it happens to be that when you go to the supermarket and the vegetable counter and you're buying sweet peppers, we eat a lot of sweet peppers, red peppers and yellow peppers and orange peppers, the sweet ones, right? So if you look at the bottom of the pepper, it either has 3 or 4 bumps. Okay, there's either 3 or 4 bumps, right? On each pepper is like that. Trust me, you're going to love this. You're going to buy those peppers in the supermarket. Look for the pepper. It's either 3 bumps or 4 bumps on the bottom. Now, the 4 bumps are the sweeter ones. So always buy those if you have a choice. Avoid the 3s and grab the 4s. You'll be happy. Those are the sweeter peppers. And you can remember that because there's 4 mothers and they're sweeter, right? So that you're going to remember now the 4 bump peppers. But that's how I remember the 3s and the 4s that are sweeter. And you remember the pepper rule. But I don't think you have any peppers on the Seder plate, so that's not so Passover relevant. But this concept of 3s and 4 3s, so it's just an interesting number. I'm not drawing too much from it. It's kind of cool. But let me tell you one last thing, and then we'll call it a show. And that's this. So if we take those 3,333 years, okay, and let's do a little math together, okay? If we say that that basically, let's say you had 33 years would be a generation. Really, Jewishly, we consider 40 years to be a generation. In today's day and age, we often think of a generation as 25, but let's just call it 33 since we could divide that number easily. How many generations has it been since the Exodus? Okay, you could do the math and you can think about that. 100 and how many is that? 110, 111, 110 generations. Okay, 110 generations. So if we divide 3333 by 33, it's 110. Okay, with me now. If you think about it for a second, a lot of times when people sit down to a Passover Seder, it's not uncommon to have 3 generations at a Passover Seder. You have grandparents, parents, children, pretty common. I myself several times had 4 generations at a Seder. My grandmother was there. My kids all remember sitting at my Passover Seder table with their great grandmother. But let's just call it very commonly of 3 generations. And if that's irregular, so the oldest, the grandparent sitting at that Seder table remembers probably when they were a grandchild and there was their grandparent sitting at the Seder table. Likewise, this Seder will be in the memory of the children, and they'll remember this Seder when they were when they're grandparents, and they'll sit with their grandchildren. So every Seder is 3 generations plus 2 of memory on the end and 2 on the other side. Every Seder table potentially represents the collective memory of 7 generations. Okay. So how many Seder tables is 111 generations? If each Seder table represents 7, so 111 divided by 7 would be, let's see, 10 would be 70. And then you got another 41 would be another almost 6. So let's say 17 Seder tables. So it's only 17 Seder tables from you back to Mount Sinai. That's all it is. 17 Seder tables in a row, each one representing 7 generations. And boom, that's not so many tables. Talk about close. It feels like a long time, but you know what? It's also not so far. Just to think about how closely you are connected to the actual moment of the Exodus. It's only 17 Seder tables end to end. You could put them all in one big gym and they could all be eating together, and it would represent the entire collective memory of the Jewish people from one end till today. Amazing. That's our show for today, folks. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I want to thanks again for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow on Live at 5. Have a healthy, have a holy. See you tomorrow.